Hello and welcome to the Arunachal Pradesh Roundtable. Good evening to everyone. This is brought to you by boomlive, that is boomlive.in. We're fact checkers and we address misinformation. We try to keep the internet safe. And we're based in Mumbai and Delhi, and we work out of India, Bangladesh, and Myanmar, which is exactly why we realized some time ago that we didn't know one region very well, the northeast part of India, very much a part of India, but we are focusing on all the areas around it. We thought we should focus on the northeastern part of India as well, especially because last year, after the Manipur violence erupted, we found it very difficult to verify information. So in December last year, we launched our Northeast Facts Network, and as part of that, we're doing the Arunachal Pradesh Roundtable. My name is HR Venkatesh, and I'm the Director Training and Research here at Boom Live. I'm joined by the person who leads the Northeast Facts Network, the person who put together this panel, Dr. Sabina Yasmin Rahman. And we also have with us our team, our fact checker and our fact checking trainer, Divya Chandra, and our producer, Tita Ghosh. Also, our research assistant, Shulu Dew. So here's how the next 1 hour and 1.5 hours will unfold. Thank you all for joining us, of course. And thank you to our wonderful panelists. I'm very excited to hear from you all. The whole idea, as we said, is we, from the mainland of India, we don't understand Northeastern issues very well. And we think that, we don't go deep enough. So we put together a panel of 8 people. Today it's 7 people. I'll tell you why in a moment. But the whole idea is for us to understand this region better so that we don't make mistakes. And the audience for this next 1.5 hours is really other people who are interested in Arunachal Pradesh, whether they're from the northeastern part of India or whether they're in other parts of India or indeed in the entire world, across the world. So let me quickly introduce our panelists. We have Professor Ashan Riddhi, professor and the head of department of history at Rajiv Gandhi University, Arunachal Pradesh. His specialization is the history of indigenous communities in the state, and he's recently coordinated a study of unsung heroes of Arunachal Pradesh who fought against the British. We also have Dr. Razeko Dele, is an assistant professor at Jomin Tayeng Government Model Degree College, Roing. His recent work focuses on Idu Mishmi shamanic rituals. Dr. Dele is also the literary secretary of Idu Mishmi Cultural and Literary Society, as well as the president of Arunachal Pradesh's Literary Society at the Lower Dibang Valley District Unit. He's a member of the National Academic Advisory Council at Research Institute of World Ancient Traditions, Cultures and Heritage in Kinjali. We also have Kani Nada Maling, who's the president of Arunachal Pradesh Women's Welfare Society. She also serves as the legal advisor to Arunachal State Commission for Women. She's worked across the board. She's worked as the chairperson of Child Welfare Committee, Itanagar, Capital Region. She's a member of the Juvenile Justice Board there, also the local complaint committee, Itanagar, under sexual harassment at workplace. We also have Kesang Degi, a professor in the Department of Education, Rajiv Gandhi Central University. She's been teaching for the past 20 years. She works in the field of women's education and the education of tribal communities. We have Tarun Mene, who's an anthropologist and a senior assistant professor at the Arunachal Institute of Tribal Studies, Rajiv Gandhi University. His research encompasses a broad spectrum of tribal culture and society with a distinct emphasis on investigating the phenomenon of suicide within tribal communities. He's currently part of 2 major projects funded by ICMR and DRDO. We also have Ranju Dodam, who's a journalist and a writer based out of Arunachal Pradesh, reporting from and about India's often overlooked northeastern region. He writes primarily on issues of environment, governance, and culture impacting the lives of numerous indigenous communities that live in the eastern Himalayan belt. We also have Jumir Basar, who is a professor and the director at the Arunachal Institute of Tribal Studies, AITS. Her research interests include social exclusion, tribal worldviews, the tribal religion, gender and development, and indigenous knowledge systems and resource management. We also had an 8th member, Tage Rupa Sora, professor at the Department of Geography at the Rajiv Gandhi University. Her specializations are in geohazards, remote sensing, land management, and so on. But she was unable to join us because of a bereavement in her family. We wish her all the best. So this is our lineup, and this is how it's going to proceed. Each person is going to speak for anywhere between 3 to 5 minutes, talking about their work. Once that round is over, we'll also ask them each this one question: what do we get wrong about Arunachal Pradesh, or what should we get right about Arunachal Pradesh? And we will also talk about any particular ideas that they want to bring forward. We'll also have time for questions, but all of this depends on this running smoothly. So I request all our panelists to present their opening remarks and restrict it to between 3 and 5 minutes. With that, let me call on. I want to check if Ashan Riddhi is here. Um, Ashan Riddhi, the floor is yours. It's all yours.
Yeah, I think 3 minutes is very less time. We cannot make any presentation.
No, no.
Anyhow, yes, tell me.
Please go ahead. Please go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, I'm going to discuss on this one of the major project we have conducted in the Rajiv Gandhi University, and under my coordinatorship, it was the unsung heroes of Arunachal Pradesh, the tribal resistance movement. And it's basically how the tribal people of Arunachal Pradesh, they have fought against the British to defend their motherland. So, can I read out or can I just orally present? Yes. Yes, please.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Please. Do you have something to present?
So, something to present, but in view of shortage of time, I have to make an oral presentation only, because Arunachal Pradesh is a 100% tribal states, and there are many tribal communities are there, and which language are different, culture is different, and all food habits are different. But now we have some commonality we have developed, and we call it Arunachal Pradesh. And so here, before this independent, or before the British coming to Assam, Arunachal Pradesh was basically a independent people. They were never under the rule of the any powerful state. Even with the Home King, they cannot control. They cannot.
Uh, Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt for a second, but your voice is not audible enough. Can you speak up a little loudly, please, or maybe move your face closer to the microphone?
Am
Thank
I
you very
louder
much.
now?
Yes, much louder. Thank you.
So what I'm trying to tell you is Arunachal Pradesh, why that territory which was out of the control of the any powerful kingdom. Even not the Bhutan could not control, even could not Tibet, even not the neighboring southern powerful Ahom king could not. And Arunachal claimed this some foothill areas, land of the Assam, as their rightful territory to collect the taxes, to use the resources. Sometimes they come down and forcefully collect the taxes, and Ahom government was feeling that it was kind of threat to their authority. Therefore, they tried to send an expedition against the tribes of Arunachal Pradesh. They tried many expedition, but ultimately they could not subjugate the peoples of the tribe of Arunachal. Ultimately, they devised a mechanism that tribal right to come and collect some taxes should be given. It was given in form of the Posa right. And another institution was devised, it's called the Kotoki. Kotoki was uh, kind of the ambassador to go between the Home King and the tribal people, and in order to deal that. So uh, it was going smoothly since from the 17th century till the coming of the British. However, after 1826, British came to Northeast and acquired the entire territory of the Assam. By 1828, they got the entire territory of Assam. So they have now close proximity with the tribes of Arunachal Pradesh. And they inherited a kind of the relationship that existed between the plains of the Assam and hills of the Arunachal Pradesh. And hills of Arunachal Pradesh, they claim their right to come and go down to plain and collect their taxes. And this collection of taxes was become a major point of the conflict or controversy between the British authority and the tribes of Arunachal Pradesh. Tribal people think that the foothill belong to me, resources belong to me, like a timber, ivory, like a gold mining, like a fishing right. or belong to the enemy. People who comes and collect these resources, they need to pay taxes to them. Then British said that no, this is our territory, and conflict started from here. And after, particularly after British become more aggressive when they discover the tea plantation, and they started the tea plantation in this the Assam. So they need to have a huge, acquire a huge land for plantation purpose, and they need a huge timber operation. They started the sawmill, timber sawmill. So problem started. Therefore, when this tribal people, they started the resistance against the British, and British tried to incursion into the tribal land. Tribal people wanted to resist them. So first, people who resisted and who faced the colonial uh, intervention, not intervention, was the people from the Aka community, present the West Kamen district, and under the leadership of this Tagi Raja, and it was as early as 1882, and Tagi Raja did a series of the war against the British, and British attempted to capture him. Sometimes he was captured and he was released, and after he get released, he made a 28th attack on British territory. And ultimately, British tried to retaliate them, but British unable to retaliate them. Because of that, British called him and made a negotiation. And ultimately, agreement was signed in 1848. And then after the Tagi Raja and his group of the people were given the right for this pension. And after the death of his father, his son, Mehdi Raja taken over the leadership of the Aka people. And he had a controversy. Controversy started with the, take example of this bonded problem. Aka claimed this is my land, but this said that this plan, not your land, and right to collection of taxes, free trade in the plan area. Ultimately, in 1883, somewhere, I could not recall exact date, the
Right.
British one messenger to Mehdi Raja that there will be a exhibition in Kolkata. Ask the Mehdi Raja and his wife. They should come down to Kolkata with the all traditional ornament, and they should show themselves as a, one of the exhibition item. And it was very offensive for these Aka people, and Aka people organized and attacked the British. And British could not British sent the expedition. British could not successfully apprehend and attack the Aka people. Therefore, it was the Aka people who was the first. And then after second group of the tribes who resisted the British attempted subjugation was the this Singpo people. It was as early as 1843 and 1828 itself also, that take under the leadership of the Bom Simpo, Busagam, and then this, so many leaders are there, and basically under the Busagam, and they have started the war. And second group of the people who faced the British colonial expansion was the Kamti. It was in 1839, and their Kamti seat was in the Assam, Sadya. It was called the Sadya Kogwai. And Sadya
Correct.
Kogwai, the ruler of the Assam province of the Sadya. And British came and they dislocated the Kamti seat and taken over the Sadya entire Sadya province under their control. Therefore, under the leadership of the Ranawai, sometimes we call it Ranawai, sometimes we call it the Sapak Longlu. The local people prepare to call it Sapak Longlu, and we call it the Ranawai. And it was in the 31st January 1939, and they organized and attacked the British outpost in Sadya. In that attack, and more than the 80 people, British people were killed, and the British commander of that post, Captain White Adam, was also killed. And then after, immediately, British sent a reinforcement from the neighboring area. Reinforcement. Then after the subsequently battle was fought, series of battles was fought, and in that raid, the Rano was captured, and ultimately he was shot dead in this accent in the battle of the fire. and then he was supported by, and after his death, it was commanded by one of his friend, one of
Professor,
his yes.
Professor, I'm so sorry to interrupt, but we are over time.
Okay,
We will
fine.
come back to you, though. We will come back to you. It is very interesting for me personally to know this story, overlooked
Okay.
history and research about
Mm.
their resistance to the British and their part in the freedom movement. Uh, and we definitely want to hear more about it. If not today, we'll reach out, and I hope that other media who are listening in will also pay attention to this. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We'll be back. We'll be back to you. But next we have Dr. Rezeko Dele. It's over to you, Rezeko.
Hello, good evening, everyone. So, basically, my topic is culture, and culture is very vast and very huge subject. It has got its very huge magnitude. So, I will be just touching upon the culture and more on the religion. And religion itself is once again a broad and also very complicated and also very controversial thing. Uh, but whatever I say, many things are most of the Arunachalis, they don't even know about all this thing about our culture, about our religion, because of the fact that it has not been recorded yet, documented yet. So broadly, for the outside world, culture of the Arunachali people can be broadly grouped into four sections. Now one can be one group are the enemist tribal groups, the tiny group of tribes like Nishi, Adi, Galo, Apatani, Tagin, etc., Puroik and all. And and with them comes Mishmis, with the Mishmis and Aka and Miji people, Aka Miji tribe. This Tani group of people, Mishmi people, Aka Miji, this tribe, they share a very common kind of culture. So that is one group. Another group is this with Tani group and Mishmi Akamiji, they comprise probably very huge number, maybe 40% or 50%. I don't exactly know, but they comprises a huge number. Not maybe 50, but maybe 40 or something. And other comes the group of tribe who have affinity with the people of Nagaland. So they are also even called Naga group of tribe. They have got affinity with the people of Burma and all, Burmese area. That is that they are the Noctes, Wangchus, Tutsa, Tangsa. Broadly, they inhabit Tirap, Changlang, and all, and they roughly share same kind of culture with the tribes belonging to the Burma and with the Nagaland. So they are the one cultural stock. Other are the Buddhists, no? Buddhists and Buddhists. Buddhist also, the Buddhist comprises of 11%, and in this 11% also, we can say, 40 or 50%. 50% Buddhists are the one who have got affinity with the Tibetan Buddhism. That is the Monpas, Menba, Khamba, and they have the affinity with the Tibetan Buddhism. And others are the Hamti Singpho. They have affinity with the Theravada Buddhism, basically with the Burma, Thailand side Buddhism. So the first thing which people conceive a lot about Arunachal is that people think that most of the Arunachal is Buddhist. No, that is not the right thing. Here we have got 11% Buddhists, and that that group of tribe, tiny group of tribe, Mishmis and all. Now they have been they have followed in the past enemies where shaman played a very important role. But now people, many of them have got converted to Christian, and now there is the revival of the indigenous culture, religion, and all. That is the one aspect. So when we talk about the religion, my discussion or my queries and all, now if you want to have ask me about things and all, it may be based on this fact that especially the religion of our people, that needs lots of, you can say that lots of touches, lots of reformation, lots of documentation. And in a simple word, I will say that our religion is very much messed up because of the fact that earlier there were this is because of the two very powerful external forces. They have, they are, tearing apart the tribal religion. The first group was the Christians who freely converted our people, despite the fact that there was this anti-conversion law prevailing in this state, but they built churches and they built schools, hospitals in the foothills of Assam, and they, blatantly, brazenly converted our people. Next came the Hindu missionary group, especially backed by the RSS. They are trying to revive, in the name of reviving our culture, reviving our tribe, our religion, they have messed a lot. No? They have just cloned our religion. And what we see, indigenous religion today is very much full of, you can say that, full of distortion, full of assimilation. So this is the very important factor which is there in our culture. So why these things are there, that can be part of the conversation, or you can ask me about all this aspect. So
Okay.
here I raised it. Okay.
Thank you, Rezeko. That was very interesting. I didn't know uh, particularly about how you sort of, just for studying sake, you group into 4 groups. So that was very interesting. And what you said about the interplay of religion and culture also was interesting. Thank you. Next, we have Kani Nada Maling. Kani, the floor is yours.
Can you hear my voice?
Yes.
Can you hear my voice? Yes. Thank you so much.
Yes.
First of all, I'm very grateful to Sabina and your team that you have given us this platform to speak about my organizations. Many people outside the state, they don't know about the contributions that made by our organization, that is a lone travel organization in the state, that is a PEN Arunachal. I should say it's a PEN Arunachal organizations in the state. And it's a Arunachal Pradesh Women's Welfare Society. It was many times we find that people outside the state, they think that the tribal women, they are giving a lot of opportunities. Tribal women they are given they are more independent in terms of so many areas. But one point, as an activist or as a social worker, I am working for more than 1 decade in this area, is that no doubt some areas we are given an opportunities, like also economically we are tribal women are given an opportunities to do our works. But down the line, if you see a state, still we find that it's a still we have find a state, there is a patriarchal mindset still exists in the state. And if you see still now if you see a state also, we will find still people practice the polygamies, and we have find the women don't given the rights to hold the property. That's where we are very sad. And just I want to tell our people who are listening to this, they want to know about our organizations also. And if you know about the Arunachal Pradesh Women Welfare Society, it was created, it was birthed to bring a change in the society. It was women, when we find women state. It was state way back in 1970. In that period of time, there was a loss of social practices was going on. It's we have child marriage practices going on. We have a bright price. We have a rampant domestic violence. We have a polygamy practices in a state. So that period of time, that some like-minded, I would say, that's committed, the people, they come together to form one organizations to raise their a common platform, to raise their voice, to fight for the right in the state of Arunachal Pradesh. Initially, it was not spread to this entire state. It was basically many times, many people may not know, it was confined to the A sectors, which was started in the year 1970s, I will say. It started by our late Lomte Riva. Is a founder secretary. She was very active member at that point of time, and where she find that there is a desire to bring a change in the state. So all the like-minded people, they come together. They form one common platform that's called Arunachal Pradesh Women's Welfare Society. And initially, it's the first feminist movement, I should say, the state of Arunachal Pradesh, because of the effort made by APWWS under the leadership of late Lomte Riva Madam. Intolerance towards crimes against women led her to do something for the people, for something for the Arunachali women. That's where it started. And if you see, until 1979, many of you may not know that it was an unorganized sectors and unregistered group of people, or basically it was called a capital complex women welfare society. And in 1970 to 78, late Lomte Riva's husband has advised her to form to register this society under the society registration, to make it legal, to give a legal form. That where I will say Ranju's father, that is Mediram Dodum, was helped us to make the bylaws of Arunachal Pradesh Women Welfare Society, and subsequently it was registered under the Society Registration Act in the 1981. And initially, it was a Capital Complex Women Welfare Society on 10th October, where they greatly feel that on the advice of our Lomte Riva's late husband and Mediram Dodums and all, they strongly say that you should not confine to only to the capital complex. It should form, it should spread across the state, where they have name it Arunachal Pradesh Women's Welfare Society. And initially it was, as I said, it was confined to bring a socio-economic changes in the for the tribal women. Is that if you the contributions of Arunachal Pradesh, is tremendous contributions are there. If you see establishment of Arunachal Pradesh State Commission for Women, that was that's the hard work on fight by the member of these organizations and all. If you see Panchayati, 33% reservations and the women reservation in the state also, though no doubt there was a 73rd amendment was what, but the state government at that period of time, they are reluctant to implement in a state. So these women, our Arunachal Pradesh women, they have really fight against the state government to implement it. That's those periods. They used to think Arunachal Pradesh Women Welfare Society as an anti-government organization, because at that relevant point of time, our women, they always are very front, and they come in front and raise their voice. That's what. And basically, I have a time period is very limited. I just want to conclude it. If anyone want to raise the questions and all contributions of Arunachal Pradesh Women Welfare, it's a very vast. If you see separation of State Commission for Women, if you see establishment of women police station, if you see rehabilitation centers, and there is a numerous contributions of Arunachal Pradesh. If you see in the educations also sectors. In those periods, the girls was not allowed to go for the go to the schools and all. But this organization, they have really worked. They have fight against the society to bring them out from their to make them educate the girl child also. That's where we have tremendous contributions. We have started a fund called Yuma. That's a dream.
I'll have to stop. Tani, I'll have to interrupt you, ma'am, right here, because we are out of time. But we've learned a lot about the organization, and through that, the history of the equality movement and the women's struggle movement in the state. It's been eye-opening, and we hope to come back to you a little later. But let's move on to Kesang Degi. Professor Kesang, the floor is yours.
Can I off?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
I hope I'm audible.
You're audible. I may have misunderstood your question, but
okay.
But we can see you and we can hear you.
Yes, can I off the video?
Yes.
Yeah. I'd like to thank Sabina and the team, Venkatesh, for having me here. Education in Arunachal Pradesh, focusing on problems of women education. Since the time constraint, I'll start by giving a brief background of education in Arunachal Pradesh. As we all know that, Arunachal Pradesh is a late starter, especially in the field of education. And if you see, after independence in the year 1961, we had only 3 government schools with 35 students, the enrollment. The first degree college was established in the year 1964. However, the positive thing is that with the initiatives of government, the growth of education in education institution in the state is quite encouraging. But again, we are still lacking, in higher education. At present, we have only 1 medical college and 2 engineering colleges. Now, if you see the literacy rate of the state, it is 65.38, out of which 73.55 are male and 57.70 are female, which is, the second lowest in the country next to Bihar. Now, if you see the performance of students at secondary and senior secondary level in the academic session 2023-24, it is 49.76 for class 10 and 73.18 for class 12, which is very, very poor. And if you compare the performance between boys and girls performance is much better in school and in higher education as well. However, if you see the representation of women in higher position or in policy making, it is very, very less in number. Mostly the girls, the women are engaged in teaching, in the profession like teaching, in nursing and clerical jobs. Of course, the literacy rate itself is very, very low. Now, the question is if girls are performing better academically, but still, why they are not at par with the men? So there are so many problems of women education. I'll just give a brief. As the previous speaker was talking about the patriarchy and gender stereotyping. She also mentioned that Arunachali society is a patriarchal society where decisions are taken by men. Men are treated as I'm not generalizing, but mostly men are treated as superior. They are given all the privilege, and gender stereotyping is very, very common, everywhere, I think, across the country. Gender discrimination in Arunachal Pradesh is quite, visible in all spheres of life. If you see the recent assembly election, which has happened a few months back, out of 60 MLAs, legislatures, we have only 4 legislators, women legislators. So basically, women are, they themselves believe that they are fit for, caregiver or the household work or teaching or nursing profession. So they believe that notion. Then another problem is gender-based violence. Of course, it's very common. Eve teasing, emotional abuse, sexual abuse is very, very common. And many times they don't understand that they are being emotionally abused, and they don't come up. And the peculiar problem of Arunachal Pradesh is early marriage and polygamy, as the previous speaker was discussing. Polygamy and the early marriage, once the girl attains puberty, they are married off. And the polygamy also leads to dropout and poor performance of girls. Another problem in Arunachal Pradesh is accessibility to higher education. We have 27 districts in our state, but we still have districts which don't even have degree colleges. So that is a serious problem. And the lack of parents' education is another serious issue. The educated people we have in our state right now, and many students who are in the schools, in the colleges, are first generation learners. So parents, they don't understand and they don't value women education because they believe that ultimately they have to, take care of the family. all these things. Then another problem is educational problems, which generally we don't realize that this problem is also there. For example, discrimination in choice of subject. If there is physics, it is associated with maths, boys. Math subject is associated with boys. Home science, some language subject, people, they think that this is this is girls subject. Then girls are also discouraged to participate in co-curricular activities. You must have seen that our the younger generation, they are doing very good in sports. For example, they are doing good in boxing, in wushu. They are coming up, but they are generally discouraged. They are not given the opportunity.
Yes.
Yes, and I would also like to talk about one more problem, that is the ambition and interest of the girls. I have been teaching in the university since almost 20 years now. I think it is because of the patriarchal attitude and the gender stereotype. Girls, they are only, I think, hardly few girls are ambitious and they have interest. You'll find, I'm not generalizing, but we'll find only few girls who wants to become a scientist, who wants to become the IAS officer. So this is one of the reason is because of the patriarchal attitude and gender stereotyping. So these are some of the problems which is hindering, which is hampering women education in Arunachal Pradesh. So I'd like to stop here. Thank you. If there is anything, we can discuss later.
Thank you so much, Kesang. That was very interesting. If it was grim, but it was also interesting in that I didn't know. I assumed that, personally, from my own perspective, I assumed patriarchy is a particular problem in the mainland, but it is also something that is an issue in Arunachal. So that was informative. Thank you. Next up is Tarun Mene, the Senior Assistant Professor at Arunachal Institute of Tribal Studies. It's over to you, Tarun.
Yeah, thank you very much, Boom, for giving us this opportunity to listen to our voice and maybe concerns. Many speaker has talked about so many, pertaining issue related to Arunachal Pradesh, and one of which is again, the case of suicide that is happening in, this case of suicide is a global concern, and also in the Indian case, we have seen the trend, like, it is increasing annually. So, of course, efforts are being made from the government side and also from the non-governmental agencies. But still, we are not able to, capture this, issue or restrict this issue so far. So, trend shows very, not so good. So to begin with, my own personal involvement with the issue of suicide started a decade back when I was a student here in the RG. So then, from our own childhood experience, from our own, being in the community, we have seen that, especially among the Dumismi community, this issue was happening for a long time, and then no research was conducted, and no intervention or any policy was being, implemented. So I started my research on suicide in the year back 2007 onwards, and now it's more than a decade. And still what I found is that this issue is not being addressed properly. I have published a good number of research articles in various journals and, in many edited volume books and all. But then somehow last year, out of my research only, the issue of suicide among the Dumismi tribe was reached in the Parliament of India. Someone raised this question, and the person to respond to this, question, he said, like, initiative will be taken up, but then, it's still, things are, haphazardly, kept. So no concrete things being, seen so far, especially dealing with the case of suicide. Not only I'm talking about the Dumismi specifically, but if you look at the overall the Indian context, globally, if you see the rate of suicide or the numbers of suicide, people, die by suicide. Globally, it is, more than 7 lakhs people dying by suicide. And it's one of the most, important leading cause of death globally. And Indian context also, if you look at the statistics, it says that, 1.7 or more than 1.7 lakhs of people die every year in India itself. In Arunachal case also, it is the same case here also, around, I mean, I'm just, trying to focus here. My deliberation will be trying to focus on the quality of the data that we have. The quality of data is so poor that you cannot, rely on the NCRB report. And if you don't have a quality of data in your hand, you cannot do any kind of interpretation or any kind of intervention programs. Out of my own research, what I have found is that out of the total cases of suicide which I have included in my research, 218 in number. Out of that, only 2 cases I found registered in the police report, and there is 0 case registered in the medical record. So this is the situation in Arunachal, and I have challenged this, underestimation of suicide, particularly in the context of Arunachal Pradesh, in our research paper, which has been published in EPW. I think, all the listeners can get this, paper in the EPW website. You can see there, I have challenged this data, because data, until and unless you don't have a data, proper data, you cannot, do any kind of initiative, intervention, especially. It is very much, discouraging that, our government agencies, our own, government agencies, they are not taking the case of suicide as a public health issue in the context of India, and particularly in the case of Arunachal Pradesh. And if you look at the mental health issue or mental health infrastructure all over India, I don't know. I don't have data, but in the case of Arunachal,
Right.
the mental health infrastructure is completely, you cannot say it is there. Only 50%, roughly 50% is, personnel are there in this mental health, department, who is looking after the entire whole of Arunachal. And mental health program is also initiated only in the 5 districts. And if I take Idumismi case, which is more affected by the suicide, there you have government has not, initiated any kind of, initiative in the Lower Dibang Valley and Dibang Valley district, which is basically, inhabited by the Idumismi population, where the numbers of suicide is very high. So, government, of course, they have come up with the national policy of suicide, strategy very recently in 2002. And during 2002 only, even, we had a very big conference in 2016. And out of that conference, we came out with a volume of a strategy, which is called as Idumismi Suicide Prevention Strategy. And we published it in 2002 only, and we have distributed it to all the stakeholders, from the minister to the, government administrator. But then at the state level also, the government has not taken any kind of initiative so far. Of course, there are certain, schemes are there which has been functioning in the school level. But then evaluation is required, proper data is required, what is happening at the actual ground. But you cannot rely, as I said, until and unless you don't have a proper data, you cannot rely on the issue. I mean, like whatever the government statistics say, the NCRB report or whatever.
Tarun, I'm afraid we'll have to
So
stop there.
if you want me to,
Sorry?
pardon, yeah.
I'm saying, I'm afraid we'll have to
If you
stop here.
want me to stop here. Okay. Then, of course, I think we will have a discussion round also. So there I can, tell the rest of the thing. So for now, I think this introductory is okay. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you so much, Tarun. Your points were very well made. I mean, on the lack of quality data, and it's quite important for us to know this, and also realize that how difficult it is to get Parliament to take notice of anything. So at least there has been some discussion, but even then, it's so difficult. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's bring in Jumeir Basar now. Jumeir, it's over to you.
Hi, good evening. I hope I'm audible.
Yes.
Am I audible? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So, first of all, thank you, Venkatesh and Sabina, for having us here. And Venkatesh, I want to know, do I need to do the introduction, or go into the topic. Like I got
Go
lost
into
in
the
between.
topic because I did
Okay.
introduce you earlier.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So I mean, in the segment that was given to us, there is a question like, what does mainland get wrong about the Arunachal Pradesh? So I guess I would say everything.
Okay, you know what, Jumeir, can you actually do your introductory remarks? I introduced you, but we haven't heard your introductory remarks about your work. And then
Okay.
after that, after your time is up, you can go directly to that next question. It's very neat. Go to that
Okay.
directly. So
Okay.
you'll get
Sure,
more than 4 minutes. You'll get like 6 minutes overall. So
Okay.
great.
Sure. Thank
Because
you.
we'll start the next round with you speaking it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Venkatesh. Well, I'm Jumbir Basar. Venkatesh has already introduced me. I work in Arunachal Institute of Tribal Studies, and I've been teaching in Arunachal Institute of Tribal Studies for the last around 13, 14 years. And my research interest is very wide, diverse. So you can say that I'm kind of jack of all, but master of none. But then the interest that was there is especially with the tribal worldview, because I look at, in terms of understanding the tribes, because Arunachal, in many parts, if you talk about Mizoram, Nagaland, there is some kind of a homogeneity in sense of identity. But Arunachal, if you want to talk about a homogeneous identity, it's very difficult. I think the only single thing which connects all of Arunachal, tribes of Arunachal, is the lingua franca, that is the Arunachali Hindi. And since the community is diverse and it has linkages with the Tibetan frontier, with the Bhutan frontier and the Myanmar frontier, and also with Assam, there has been traditional linkages. So Arunachal, kind of becomes a melting point of culture, and diversity is so much that sometimes you find people only with 500 numbers, with 300 numbers, who have a very different culture and very different language. And therefore, when we talk about a singular particular tribe and we talk about their relationship with other frontiers, the relationship, though they might be in the same geopolitical or geographical area, the relationship is very different with the other one. So here today I was to talk on the issues of border, and I have titled it as the missing dots. So Asan Reddy had already given an introduction of Arunachal and how Arunachal evolved into a state. And when we want to understand Arunachal, we have to start with the British coming up with the inner line and the outer line. So inner line was what British administered. Most of the Arunachal was within the outer line, and it was maintained as usually a buffer zone between the Tibetan Tibet or the China per se, because British had, at one point of time worried about China also. So it remained as a buffer zone. So only in 1914, when the Assam frontier regulation of 1880 was implemented, Arunachal was brought under some kind of an direct administration and created as Northeast Frontier Tract. So Arunachal evolved into a frontier. And as a borderland, it evolved as a borderland when it was brought under the administration. But before that, as the other speakers have already stated, Arunachal was a self-governed, you can say, tribal, the tribe, they were autonomous, they governed themselves, and each tribe had its own system of governance. So in 1937, from frontier in 1937, Arunachal becomes an excluded area. So, it was brought under the provision of Section 91(1) of Government of India Act. So after independence also, we see that Arunachal remained a frontier for a long time, maybe because at that point of time, the frontier was not that important. It was more important to have a republic rather than thinking about the frontier. That might have been the reason. So, the problem starts with that, as Venkatesh, in his introductory remarks said, when we talk about India, we talk of different states, not the Northeast. So even if the Northeast is there in imagination, Arunachal is by far, it does not come in the Indian imagination also. And it's only when I think the Chinese government talks about or claim Arunachal as a disputed territory or their own territory, that as Indians, as the government and the citizen as well, wake up and say that no, Arunachal belongs to India. So I think, we'll talk about it later. I think I have to come to this again. So
Right.
I'll stop it here and we'll talk about it later when I discuss the topic. Yeah, thank you, Venkatesh.
Thank you so much. That was eye-opening, because the whole idea about a homogeneous identity not applying to Arunachal was something I didn't know. So, I mean, each and every one of you has taught me something I didn't know, and I'm grateful for that. My apologies, I forgot to invite Ranju Dodam, even though I introduced him as to come before Jumir. So my apologies for that. And then we can get into the next round. I also want to do a quick time check at this point in time. We're roughly 45 minutes, 50 minutes into our discussion. So we'll try to hurry things along after Ranju speaks, of course. So Ranju, the floor is yours.
Hi, Venkat. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. Firstly, thanks to Boom. Thanks to Sabina and you guys for having me here. Um, as a journalist, as a journalist, I am used to actually not speaking much, but rather asking the questions. Um, and as the last speaker, I will not take up much of your time. Actually, we were told to give a brief introduction about ourselves and our work. I am Ranju Dodam. I am a journalist. I've been working in I am from Arunachal. I have been working in Itanagar for the last 13 years as a journalist from smaller cities like Itanagar and in the Northeast. We don't necessarily always have a particular beat that we cover. Uh, Professor Basar was being modest when she said, when she referred to herself as a jack of all trades, but actually that applies more to us journalists, because we have to have knowledge about everything, but end up having no expertise in no particular topic. Having said that, of course, however, again, by way of introduction, my father is from the Nishi tribe, from East Kameng. My mother is from Assam, which is from the Missing tribe, but I am not here to vocalize or verbalize any of the community's voices. I'm just to share my thoughts on a very with my limited knowledge on a very personal level. Do you want us to speak? Do you want me to say something about the work, about the topic?
Yeah, say something about your work. Yeah, anything really. We'll get to the next section soon. So
Right. Okay. Right. Okay. So over the years I've written extensively about politics, culture, religion. These are all topics that you have better experts on your panel on our panel today. One of the topics that I've also written extensively about is environment, and that in a natural context, when somebody hears environment, at least for the news media perspective, everyone straight away goes to hydropower, because that's a trending topic. That's been trending topic for the last 15-20 years now. But while I have written about the issue of hydropower in our state, I have also written about other aspects of the environment, including wildlife conservation, um, forest rights, the conflicts that people have as sometimes as indigenous people, sometimes as not indigenous people, but who are settled in forested areas of the state. Because these are, I don't know if city dwellers would necessarily, people who lived in cities for generations, whose families have been living in cities for generations, would necessarily understand the complexities of living in a place like Arunachal, where technically all the land, all the forest, the river, the resources, they all technically belong to the people, um, in terms of its usage, in terms of ownership. it belongs to clans, it belongs to individuals, it belongs to tribes. But then you also have the government of India telling us that no, apparently we are staying on lease. We are on lease with the state government, with the government of India, and that everything uh, in our state actually belongs to the state, and that it is the government that allows us to live in what has for centuries and generations been our home. Now, when you say now, I was specifically asked to speak about development and environment and the correlation. Now, I'm assuming it's specifically referring to infrastructural development and how it relates to our environment. I think through all my years of writing, from my initial years when I was a much younger man to now, um, I think I've seen that that there seems to be. I mean, maybe it's because of the fact that we as tribals uh, were denied, did not, or rather, did not have access to certain material infrastructural, ideals that we think that the idea of development only refers to big roads, big bridges, um, network connectivity. And while all those things are very important, we wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be able to have this conversation if it weren't for some of those things. Um, but uh, but we fail to see, and I think, and I don't blame the people. I think it's because, like I said, I think because we've been denied certain things for so long that we now aspire for the very best and the biggest of those things. Um, but in the long run, I don't see those ideas as being sustainable. You can't just keep, especially in the kind of region we live in. We get massive rainfall. Our lands are prone to landslide. Our hills are prone to landslides. We live in a high seismic zone, seismic activity zone. So we need to factor in these things. We need to be able to, live with nature instead of trying to fight with nature. Now I see that the when it comes to infrastructural development, well, forget infrastructural development. Even like our homes, our offices, our buildings, everybody wants to build earthquake resistant, earthquake resilient buildings rather than trying to as if to try and take on nature. Now earthquakes we cannot stop. So why don't we build buildings that can that can resist the force of earthquakes? But for centuries we've lived sustainably through the resources that we've had around us, surrounding all around us in the western Himalayas, sorry, in the eastern Himalayas, but in the western part of Arunachal. Um, the Monpas and Tibetans have built houses using wood, using stones. Some houses which don't even use a single piece of nail. They're built using intricate cuts and fixed like a jigsaw puzzle. In the other areas, move eastward of Arunachal, we have houses which have always been traditionally built using bamboo and wood. But of course, now
Right.
we don't do those things. Those things are sustainable. But of course, it's a little hypocritical of me to actually say those that we should be living that lifestyle while I live in a rented apartment with
Yeah.
air condition and concrete. So I mean,
Right.
yeah. So it's a little
I,
difficult for me to be really honest. While being honest, but not being hypocritical. Yeah.
No. I mean, thank you so much for that, Tarun. Ranju, because one thing I realize is we are full of multitudes, we are full of contradictions, and I'm thankful that you were able to bring up this insight into our conversation. Very often we find that the environment is missing from conversation. So I'm glad you brought that up. So roughly we've finished about an hour. And really, I want to say at this point in time that this is the start of, I'm going to treat this as a start of an ongoing conversation that we have entered into. It's an ongoing conversation for many centuries. And we've entered into this at this point in time. So I don't see this evening as the end of the conversation. It's a conversation that is going to continue and it's going to be ongoing. It's just that now some of us mainlanders have been educated as well. So I look at it that way. Let's talk about what we get wrong about Arunachal. And at this point in time, I'll invite you all for very short comments, like even just like a couple of sentences each. So maybe we can start with Razeko and then we can go to Ashan and then from there to Kani. So what do we get wrong about Arunachal Pradesh? That's the topic. So let's see if we can get this done in 10 minutes so that we can move to the third round.
Okay. Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
So, I just have to say in say like 1 minute.
Yeah, just say a couple of sentences, honestly.
Okay, couple of sentences. Now, what specially people of India or all over the world, people all over the world have misconception or wrong notion about India is that Arunachali is a kind of Buddhist state, because most of the time people have that kind of impression. Whenever Chinese claims comes, many people look through that prism that probably they are the Buddhists and having affinity with the Tibet, and therefore a kind of legitimacy. Say, for instance, Rajasthan, Punjab, Gujarat, and all, they have got shared history and shared history with the people of Pakistan and Pakistan. But for us, we are naturally, we never had that kind of shared history and all. So that is the one thing. Not with the China, not Pakistan, having nothing with the China. Only 4 or 5% of the Buddhist tribe who had affinity with the Tibetan Buddhism. They used to pay tribute to the theocratic Tibet. So that is the very wrong notion people have. And we didn't have any kind of, we were never under any kingdom, as Jumi madam said. We were never part of China, or not even we were never part of British Raj also, as Reddy sir said. So this is the biggest misconception. And another thing is that our process of assimilation. All people talk about how Hyderabad was brought into India, how Kashmir was brought into India, all those stuff. But the unique case is the case of Arunachal. How Arunachal became part of India and how successfully it got assimilated in the Indian fold. Now, that is a very interesting, and that is a very important place, important aspect which one need to study, because Arunachal, when we see the history, Redis will point out that when the British has to pay this unrecognized tribe who were living in the frontier region, that the British used to pay taxes. It was something like chaud or chaud, like the Aurangzeb and all, they used to pay to Marathas. So British used to pay to the tribes that you don't plunder and loot our place and we will pay you. That was something which they followed Ahom. Once again, Ahom, they were very powerful dynasty, and even the Mughals, they could not defeat Ahom. So this is the very important aspect, and people always forget, the government is forgetting that how our people got assimilated in this fold because of the deeds of many anthropologists under Nehru and Verer Elvin. Another thing is that, in the Arunachal tribal context, when I talk about religion, it's very difficult to separate religion and culture. The Arunachal tribe doesn't look at from that angle. We tribal people, we don't have that concept of different culture and different religion. Whoever have this kind of notion, they are looking at from the Western Christian concept, Christian eyes, where they have got separate of culture and religion. So it is
Right.
inseparable. Okay.
Good. 3 misconceptions. Good to know. Professor Reddy, it's over to you.
So first misconception is that
Can you speak up, sir, a little bit loudly? Thank you.
yes, first problem is that because of the facial appearances. Of course, we look like a more of the Mongolian face, but when we go to the mainland, when they saw us, they immediately assume that we are the foreigner. And when they asked about us that our identity, we said that I'm from Arunachal Pradesh. Where is Arunachal Pradesh? When they don't know the geographical location of it. And even it is among the educated people also. It's because of that there is no history, nothing is in the syllabus of this college curriculum, university curriculum in India. It's confined with the other people only. This is the first misconception. Second misconception is that even these educated people, if they know that Arunachal Pradesh, if I say I travel to many places, if I say that I belong to Arunachal Pradesh, how far it is from China? Is it very near them? Arunachal is a very big state, and it's more than largest state in Arunachal Pradesh. Of course, we have a boundary with so many countries, but it doesn't mean that within the hour, within 2 hours, we will go able to reach able to reach the China and cross the border. Very big geographical area. And another misconception is that if they says, how is the weather of Arunachal Pradesh? It may be very cold. I agree that there is a cold place, there are moderate temperature place, there is a cold region. Which kind of the temperature I should say, climate I should say. And this is the another problem. And then
I'm sure there'll be more. We'll come back to
there
it.
is a
Professor, we'll come back to it. I'm sure there'll be more. But you were going to say just one more thing, I think.
any idea?
Sorry? Yes, we can hear you. Professor, we'll come back to you. It's over to Kani and then Kesang. What do we get wrong about Arunachal Pradesh? This is something we've had like 5 or 6 points. So it's over to Kani and then Kesang. If Kani is not around, maybe Kesang.
Okay, Venkatesh, I would like to, number one, I would like to say that people from the so-called mainland, they feel that Arunachalis, they are not patriot. Like they are, China, more associated with China. But actually, it's not like that. If you come to Arunachal, if you see Arunachal, people greet each other with, Jai Hind. Like I'm from Tawang, bordering China. Right now I am in Tawang, my hometown. So people, they greet each other with Jai Hind. So people are very much patriotic here. I can say that this the tribal people of Arunachal Pradesh are one of the most patriot people in the country. Then second misconception is that people think that we can't speak. There is problem with the communication. But whereas हम लोग हिंदी भी बोल सकते हैं. Of course, our Hindi is not very good. Arunachali Hindi, as our previous speaker was saying. Then we can speak English also. Then as Kani was also saying, people, the Indian people, they think that, the women in Arunachal Pradesh are so privileged. But actually, it's not like that. We, as I said, our society is a patriarchal society. And many a times, because of, gender inequality in education, I would say, they don't understand what actually is the status of women in Arunachal Pradesh. It's not that they are always privileged. So I would stop here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Kesang?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, I have problem with the network here. As I said, I am in, Tawang, bordering
Yes,
China,
yes.
not
True,
very
true,
far
true.
from China.
I do have a network problem here, so for a moment I could not get you all.
So it's we're talking about what people get wrong about Arunachal Pradesh and what misconceptions there are. Kesang, so sorry, Kani. So so we just want to know what these misconceptions are from your perspective.
A perspective one is that, as you all know, we always call chinky. That is what we are very sad to see when we go outside our states, when we go to Delhi and we don't go to mainland India. They consider us very, yes, chinky is there, they consider us very cheap. That's where it's very sad. They think that we are from other, like China's and all. That's one. Another the thing is that, as I already said, to share with you all also that in the state of Arunachal, no doubt we have so many good things are also prevailing here. Women are given space also, but down the line, as I said, this issue need to be addressed. And I'm very sad to say that the state government also, they are reluctant to address the issues like polygamy, which is prevailing in a state. That's what, two things I just want to say. Thank you so much.
It's been what, almost 70 minutes that we've been speaking, and we've learned so much already. Let's just round up this section with, by going to Jumeer, then Ranju, and then we'll end with Tarun. Let's go to Ranju now, then Jumeer, and then Tarun.
Right, about what the rest of the country gets wrong.
Our rest of the world, to be honest. Yeah.
Where do I start? So as a journalist, I'll just, I mean, there are certain things actually which some of the other panelists said that I don't necessarily agree with, also about the perspective of that Arunachal is not being considered patriotic. I think right now actually the narrative has been very well built that Arunachalis are the most patriotic people in the country, and that we say Jai Hind. I have never said Jai Hind unless unless in jest. It's not
This imagine wild kind of a country. Of course, we have wilderness, but we are not as wild. And of course, there is a lot of question on food. Once I was asked if I ever had snake for meal. So, all these kinds of question, but there are also communities like the Idumishmi, I think Rejako will dwell on that later, where women are forbidden to eat meat. So, different cultures have different practices. And I think maybe, sometimes they get it right. Most of the time they get it wrong. So I think it all has to do with the kind of information flow that is there, a kind of information that is generated on Arunachal. And many a times, most of the information that people take, about Arunachal is from Google Baba and what is written in the media. So I think many a times that is where people go wrong. So I think the first misconception would be something like state. As Asan Reddy has also mentioned, many people won't know Arunachal as a state also. But that is changing, of course. People are coming to know. But then about the tribes and the idea of the tribe, because we have this misconception of a tribe, and it has been exoticized in many of the writing, even in India film media, where tribes are shown in coming from forest, wearing leaves and all. So I think all these misconceptions are there. So I'll just end up saying that yes, we have wilderness, but we are not as wild.
It's kind of a
Yeah,
it's thank you, Jumeer. Yeah, Tarun, it's over to you.
Yeah,
And then
I agree
Tarun,
with
before you go, before
Yeah.
you start, Tarun, I just want to tell people, if you have questions, our audience, please write in to the chat box right away. I've already got one question, but just write it generally in the chat box. And the question is for Rezeko. Rezeko, I'm just going to paste this here so you can think about your answer. The question is by Marky, and I've pasted it in the box. So Tarun, it's over to you.
Yeah, I agree with Ranju and Jumeer also. What they have said is very correct. Misconception, there are multiple misconceptions in terms of socio-cultural aspect. If you see, people may think Arunachal as non-veg state. Vegetarian may not visit. Like Kesang ma'am has said, Hindi. Yes, we can speak Hindi. That may be a kind of a misconception of the people. Remoteness may be another reason. Bad transportation. Maybe people think that we live in jungle, not in a house. Something like that. Then insurgency is one of the most important factors. People think like Arunachal is infected with insurgency. Of course, in the history, if you look at the history of Arunachal, It was there and it is there also, but it is not affected the state as a whole. So this also have to be, understand, and the Chinese identity, which has always been given to the people of Arunachal, or Nepali identity. That is one of the more factor, for the people, they don't, really, it may be, you may say, racist remarks from both the sides. From us also, something goes wrong. From mainland India also, it comes something wrong. So these are, one of the most important. And then if you see politically also, number games met. So here also in Arunachal context, you have few numbers of MPs. So that may have an effect that, Arunachal is not coming out in a broader, larger national level, scenario. And yeah, these all are the, factors which I feel, has a kind of an hindrance with the, Arunachal. Yeah.
Got it. Thank you for that, Tarun, and thank you, everyone. We've done 2 rounds. Let's get into some questions and answers. You may write in questions and you can address them specifically to people if you feel like, or generally. Rezeko, there's a question for you. Do you want to answer that? Did you read that
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, I have read. So, that is basically about the funding and all. I won't touch on the political aspect, but this kind of funding itself is political in nature, especially that started from the missionaries being funded and all that started from the church and politics. You cannot divide that. That we have seen in the long history of the Christian tradition. So here basically, here we need funding, we need help of the organized group. So being a practitioner of the indigenous religion, I will be a foolish man if I say that I can counter the Christian missionary forces, because they are very organized, very well organized institutions. So a tribal community like Mishmi or even Nishi, they cannot counter these forces. Uh, of course, we need the help of the groups like RSS and all, Hindu missionary forces and all, or whoever it may be, Buddhist or anybody who wants to conserve the conserve the tribal culture, religion of our people. They are very welcome, but they should not clone us. They should not make us their cheap copy. Because I am student of literature, and I have studied in that RSS background school, and I have lived 10 years of my early life reading Gita, and also I very much know Hinduism and all, and I have been in very close proximity with these forces also, RSS and all sponsored forces. But the thing is that yes, we need their help in our conservation, or in our preservation of the religion and culture propagation. They have got their missionary, but they should not make us their cheap copy. Now the problem here is that they are making us their cheap copy. When I see that there is because our everything is rooted in shamanism, and what our people have done is that we have not studied our shamanic culture. Shamanic culture has not been documented, and now we are institutionalized institution. We are putting the religion in a kind of structure, and that is without reading our root. So basically, it is something like without reading Veda, or Ved, Upanishad, or Ramayana, Mahabharata, you are making out a Hindu. So that is something which I would like to appeal to the outside forces, even church and all. If they really want to conserve our tradition practices, they are very welcome, but don't make us their cheap copy. No? That's what, then don't distort our culture. Yeah.
Thank you for that. 2 more questions have come. Does anyone want to take Sunita's question? Could one of the speakers discuss regarding caste in Arunachal Pradesh? Anyone wants to speak on this? Please start speaking. Ashant Riddhi has already replied, but Kani, you want to say something? Go for it. And then we can ask Ashant to say something. And then we can end with Yaren's question. So it's over to you, Kani.
Pardon, please.
Do you feel
Hello?
like answering that question?
What questions?
Okay, no, that's fine. I thought you wanted to speak. Ashant, can you talk about caste in Arunachal Pradesh?
Arunachal Pradesh as a society, of course, in some of the societies, shifted system is there, but as like a rigid caste system is practiced in the other societies of the India, we don't have that caste system, and we are, I can say that the egalitarian society, no caste system. Of course, class system are there, but we don't have a caste system.
Okay, thank you for that.
We'll
We'll
come in
end.
with a few lines.
Tarun, yes, go ahead.
See, caste system is basically to do with the larger Hindu social structure. It is not to do with the tribal society. Tribe and caste has to be, understood first. Sunita, I'm answering to Sunita. So you need to look into the definition of a tribe, and you need to look at the definition of a tribe to have a clear understanding of this, differences. Yeah, in Arunachal context, there is no caste. Since Arunachal represents, 100% tribal society, so here we don't have any caste system. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, we've got a number of answers as well from Ranju. We also had someone called Kamdir or Kamdir who's written an answer. Let's get to two more questions. Actually, Yarin, your question I'll ask toward the very end. Kamal Mehdi has asked a question. Kamal Mehdi. Drugs and child labor are emerging issues in the state. There is visible problem in some parts of the state. Is there action being planned or recommended to the state? Anyone wants to answer that? And okay, while you're thinking about it, there's a question to Ranju as well on his view from Indubala Keshavan. What is your view on politics around the use of the term like tribe, given its colonial past? That's an interesting question. In many central parts of India, we use the term Adivasi. So is the word Adivasi, is it accurate to use that word in the Arunachali context? And what is the, and also the word tribe? So Ranju, can you take that?
Yeah, sure. Well, unlike what maybe the perception outside of the Northeast, outside of the tribal belt of the Northeast, the word tribe doesn't necessarily have negative connotations for us. In fact, it's something that we are very proud to wear that tag, that we are tribals, because we see that as being as being as being people who are closer to nature, as someone who's from an indigenous group, and that we have more affinity towards nature. So the tribe thing, I know that it has negative connotations outside of the Northeast and outside of the tribal belts in the corporate world, and even in academia, barring maybe in Arunachal. So as such, I don't have a problem with that. Coming to the usage of the term Adivasi as such, I think if you look for it, look at it from the point of view of being a direct translation of indigenous person, Adivasi makes sense. That is what the word is. That is what the Hindi word is. But what's happened in the Northeast is that term Adivasi is used by the hill tribes, or actually by the other tribes as well, to refer to just the tea tribes of Assam, the tea laborers who were brought in from present-day Jharkhand um, and from Chhattisgarh, basically the Gond and the Mundas who were brought in by the British uh, as tea garden laborers. Because Assam had a shortage of laborers, so they had transported a large number of them who now reside in Assam. So that term Adivasi in the Northeast context is used only for those tea tribes. I don't have any issue. I take issues with the Indian government, the government of India refusing to use the term indigenous people in international forums, because and rather pushing for the term Janjati or Janjati as forest dwellers rather than Adivasi. That I take exception to that the Indian government refuses to recognize uh, indigenous people, that the term indigenous people in international forums. I have issues with that. Was
Got it.
that the crux of the question? Yeah.
No, that was very useful. Thank you. And others have also weighed in on chat about this issue about tribe, whether tribal has connotations. Okay, so there is a question from Yarin who says, the concern with the use of the word mainland for north and southern part of India. Mainland, as I understand, is the whole of India. So I would say it would be better if we refrain from using the term. I find, I mean, I would love to know your views. I have come to know that a lot of people in the Northeast refer to people from other parts of India as mainlanders. I also tend to use that term, but I would love to hear what you all say. Anyone wants to talk about it? Let's see who has not taken a question. Jumir,
Okay.
Kesan. Yeah.
See, I thought we have a presentation later, so it was not the full presentation, but I was coming into how the government of India has constructed the entire Northeast as a frontier. And that is where my talk was, circled around on, focused around on. So when the government itself create a frontier and use it as a buffer zone to, between big brother, I should say, maybe if India sees China as a big brother or whatever. So if government of India creates a buffer zone and talks it about as a frontier, of course, then we are frontier and we are not the mainlanders, right? So it is not our view that this is the mainland, but it is how for a longest time, most of the Northeast have been treated as frontier because unlike other parts of India, there has not been much of nationalizing process. In Arunachal, there has been a lot of nationalizing process, especially after 1962, where you can read a book. There is a book by Elvin and Sastry on administration of NEFA, which states that people of NEFA should be made to carry the Indian flag in a procession. So are we not Indians? Did they consider us not Indians or people who need to be Indianized? And that perception still is there where, for example, there is a work by, Aidurai who states that, after the 1962 war, because there is the international border, Idu-Mishmis are in this side and that side of the border as well. So there were some villages which are that side on the border who fought with the Chinese, okay? And therefore, the family had later migrated to this side, and these families till today are seen with some form of suspicion, because of course, when borders are drawn, borders are for maybe a government, the British government or Indian government. It might be just a cartographic dots and cartographic sketches, but then these are things which divide people. And here there are people who are on both sides of the border. So the treatment, the word mainland, why we need to use it here is because it has always been treated as a frontier, the term itself. The government itself uses the term frontier. If we are frontier, of course, we are not the mainland.
Got it. That is very useful. Anyone else wants to speak on this?
Yes, I agree with you, Professor Jamil, that basically how the Arunachal Pradesh evolved as one of the territory now as a state. It started with the British government's using of the terminology. Entire this Arunachal state, including the Nagaland and the Mizoram, it was called as the eastern frontier of Bengal. The time the main government was Bengal, and Assam was part of the government also. Initially, they used the term the eastern frontier of Bengal to indicate this part of Arunachal Pradesh as one of the major geographical area of the eastern frontier of Bengal. And then after it was term was used like this, the northeastern frontier tract. It was called a tract. India called the tract, not a territory. And then after it came to this northeastern frontier agency, which we call it the NEPA. And prior to that, it was because of this Chinese phobia. The British Indian government was the fear of the Chinese intervention and Chinese influence of this tribe. And before the Chinese become very powerful, Chinese activity very active, Indian government British government, I mean to say, they tended to leave this portion of the land as a buffer zone, as Professor Jumir has already mentioned, as long as China is not doing anything. When China was become very active, trying to expand the particular the Mismi side, that the Rima side, and that the town side, then Chinese, when Chinese started that, British Indian government become very well, threatened of their position in the northeastern state, in eastern Bengal of the Assam, and then they started the making this policy. In 1913 and 12 and 13, 14, they had a conference in the Simla. This is called the Simla Conference. Out of that conference, they drawn a line called the inner line. The inner line is that basically it is the administered area. Within the inner line, they will administer, their law will prevail.
Right.
Outside the inner line, their law will not prevail. And whatever tribal people and they can do, if anything, if anyone from the inner land side and cross the inner line and got problem with the tribal people, British will be not responsible. And if tribal people come down and cross the inner line and do something, British will be doing responsible. Then come to the concept of the outer line. Outer line is just imaginary line, and this is my inner line, the regular administered area, and outer line is imaginary. This is my boundary, and it was keep on changing.
Understood.
And so, and after it come to the 1935, this entire state was called as an excluded area. Arunachal Pradesh was excluded area. So it was not a part of this regular territory of the British government. And so that's what I used to say, that Arunachal was not colonized by the British, and they attempted to colonize. So this is my view.
Yes, that is of course good to hear that you repeat that, sir. I had no idea, so it is good for me to know. I think what we can do now is we can say the official part of the event is over. Those of you who want to leave, please do so. We'll start wrapping up in the next, in 5 minutes, we'll start wrapping up. But I do want to thank you all. And first I want to say, we wanted to hear more from you. Because of the interests of time, we chose this format. And Jumir, I think you had a presentation. Also, Razako, you had a slide. You were not able to show it. I'm sorry we were not able to do that, but we'll continue these conversations. This is just the start of a conversation, I feel. And we are also planning to come up with a handbook. Now, this handbook is something we are going to put together, and we're going to, we're going to look at it. But the plan is to put together a resource guide or a style guide or a handbook for people from outside of the Northeast, and even from people from within the Northeast, on how to report on issues, what terminology to use. And we will lead with all the answers we got. Whether should we use the term Adivasi, whether it's, the use of the word tribal. Most people don't realize that caste is not an issue. There's so many such issues. So we will reach out to you all speakers for participation in creating the handbook. And so that is one way to carry the conversation forward. And we will continue to do events. So on that note, thank you all. Thank you very much. And also to our audience, thank you for registering and for joining us. We had something like at our peak, 45 people, and 90 people registered, and 45 people turned up, which actually is huge because normally we don't see that kind of conversion happening. So thank you very much for joining us, the audience as well. And we are available here, of course, at Boom. You can write to us. We'll also try and give you, when we put together a handbook, we'll also ensure that all the people who have spoken today, we find a way to give you their contact information should you want to contact them. And they're all excellent people to talk to going forward on all things Arunachal Pradesh. And of course, their expertise, I'm sure, also extends far beyond Arunachal Pradesh. It's just a start with them. Yeah, thank you all.
Thank you.